Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the Football Wizards. In this video, we are going to discuss everything related to FPL Defenders and which ones to pick and which to avoid. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe and also follow us on Twitter for the latest updates. These are 17 teams from the 18-19 season, excluding the 3 which got relegated. Let's rearrange them according to their defensive record because for the 19-20 season, we want defenders only from teams who were defensively very good. This rearrangement shows some really interesting teams like Everton, Wolves and Leicester, along with Liverpool and Manchester City who were way ahead of all of the rest. For now, let's pick the top 7 defensive teams and ignore the rest. Last season, Liverpool and City had amazing defensive stats with not much between them. Liverpool had 21 clean sheets and City had 20. Both teams had similar goals against and average goals per game stats. This makes it obvious that we should pick at least one defender from both these teams. The only downside, of course, is that desirable defenders from both these teams are very expensive. Since we need at least 3 if not 4 really good defenders, we look to either double up on Liverpool or City or get cheaper defenders from the remaining teams. Wolves is a surprise inclusion in this list because despite being the 6th best defensive team, they managed only 9 clean sheets. Before going any further, let's decide how much we will spend on our defense. To decide this, let's compare last year's top scoring striker and midfielders with defenders. Virgil Van Dyck and Robertson both cost 6 million at the start of the season and ended up scoring 208 and 213 points. On the other hand, Salah cost 13 million and was the highest point scorer in FPL with 259 points. Sterling and Aubameyang both cost 11 million and scored 234 and 205 points. The interesting stat here is to compare these players in points per million. Van Dyck and Robertson had a whopping 32 and 30 points per million compared to Salah's 20.72. So the top scoring player in FPL had 20.72 points per million, whereas Virgil van Dyck and Robertson, valued at half of Salah's price, had 32 and 30. So in my opinion, investing in defense is a very good strategy, especially if you want full value for your money. So now the question is, how much money should we set aside for defense? In the previous years, all FPL experts and managers agreed that 25 million was the optimum figure that we should invest in defense. This year, I would like to suggest you to increase that figure to 28 to 30 million. If we think clearly, defense makes up 1/3 of your squad, but 30 million is not even 1/3 of your total allocated budget. Along with that, this year I feel that there are many good options in defense and midfield as compared to strikers. Since Liverpool was the best defensive team, first let's compare their players. I have selected these 4 players because I expect Liverpool to line up with these 4 at the start of the season. I think Gomez will be the second choice centre-back rather than Lovren or Matip. If we compare the stats, there is not much between the 3 main defenders of Liverpool. Van Dyck played the most games, Robertson scored the most points, and Trent Alexander-Arnold has the best points per game ratio. Here I would like to suggest you to double up on the Liverpool defense, especially for the initial fixtures which are very favourable. I would not pick Gomez because he doesn't offer any offensive threat. If I had to select 2 Liverpool defenders, I would go with Virgil van Dijk and any one out of Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. The reason for this is Virgil van Dijk is a centre-back and he will never get rotated. This strategy will also save you $500,000. If you want, you can go with both the fullbacks as well, but for me it's Virgil van Dijk along with one fullback. Moving on to the City defense. Although City had a close second best defensive record, the stats of their defenders are nowhere close to Liverpool. I have left out Mendy from this list as he's injured and looks like he will miss the start of the season. On comparing the stats, Aymeric Laporte stands out as the defensive pick from this group of players. He is a centre-back and just like Virgil van Dijk won't get rotated very often. He also has the best points per game among all the City defenders. Kyle Walker is also a decent option if you don't have enough funds to go for Laporte. The interesting ones will be Stones and Zinchenko. If they play all pre-season games and also start in the Community Shield, they could very well offer a cheap route into the City defense. In my opinion, one City defender should be sufficient. At the end, I will show you my recommended combinations of defenders within our specified budget. Just like Liverpool, Everton have a very kind fixture schedule at the start of the season, and I highly recommend that you choose one of its defenders. Here we compare the stats of 2 Everton and 2 Chelsea defenders who were also very popular last year. If you think about Everton defense, you think about Luca Dean, and although many managers are going for Dean, Coleman had very similar stats to him even though he doesn't take any set pieces. Valued at 5.5, $500,000 less than Dean, he might well be an equally good option. Alonso and Azpilicueta had very good stats last season, but with a tough fixture schedule, I would recommend you to avoid them at the start and maybe get one of them when you use your first wildcard. Now let's look at some of the most popular defenders outside the top 6 teams and discuss whether they will be relevant this year as well. Valued at $4 million last year, Aaron Van Bissaka was a gem of an enabler who ended up scoring 120 points. Doherty started at $4.5 million and scored 4 goals and 7 assists. Pereira and Patrick Van Aanholt had similar stats and were very popular choices as well. This year, however, their prices have skyrocketed and suddenly their points per game scores do not look appealing according to their prices anymore. So I would recommend you to avoid these last season's bandwagons. Although the Fantasy Premier League admins have tried their best to skew the prices this time and leave no good choices for cheap enablers, let's look at some of the players who are best of the rest. We have selected Issa Diop, Cathcart, Dunk and Taylor. If Dunk goes to Leicester, then he will be a very good option. Otherwise, out of these, I think Issa Diop is a good choice. Please do comment and tell us who your favorite 4.5 million defender is. Along with that, we have selected 3-4 million enablers who have a very slim chance of playing anyway. The best option here is Martin Kelly of Crystal Palace, especially after the transfer of Aaron Van Bissaka to Manchester United. Again, these players are gonna be on the bench for most of the time, so we need to set and forget them. Finally, we would like to discuss some mid-priced players who could be decent options but are from teams who had a weak defensive record. Ben Chilwell is an exception here. Based on the suggested budget, let me suggest a couple of possible combination of defenders. Here again you can select Trent Alexander-Arnold or Robertson as per your choice because both have the same value. The League of the Football Wizards is back, and to join the league please use the code shown on the screen. I hope you enjoyed the video and this makes selecting your defenders a little bit easier. I'll see you soon in my next video. Till then, take care, bye bye.